And like one good monopoly player might say to another, he commends him for his shrewdness. That's when Jesus says to his disciples, "And so I tell you, make friends for yourselves by means of dishonest wealth, so that when it is gone, they may welcome you into the eternal homes." I've got to tell you the truth. No matter how many times I read or hear that parable, I'm never quite ready for that ending. It always sends me back to the beginning to see what I've missed. Was it really the master and not the manager who was cheating people out of their money? Was the manager just trying to cancel out some kind of exorbitant interest fee the master was charging? Or was he giving up his own commission, saving those debtors a little money so that they would later welcome him into their houses? I've gone through this story with a fine-toothed comb. I have consulted all the best commentaries, but in the end it seems to come back to this, that the manager was cheating the master in order to secure his own future. He was a dishonest manager, and Jesus is the one who says so. In verse 8 of this chapter, he says, "And the master commended the dishonest manager because he had acted shrewdly." This manager was a good monopoly player, in other words, and the master, who probably was a good monopoly player himself, recognized it. And Jesus somehow knew that all of this was just a game. At the end of this story, he begins to deal out proverbs to his disciples, like those orange chance cards in the monopoly game. "Listen," he says, "the children of this age are more shrewd in dealing with their own generation than the children of light." Got it? "Make friends for yourselves by means of dishonest wealth, so that when it is gone, they may welcome you into the eternal homes." Got it? "Whoever is faithful in very little is also faithful in much. Whoever is dishonest in very little is also dishonest in much." Got it? "If you have not been faithful with the dishonest wealth, who will entrust to you the true riches?" Got it? "If you've not been faithful with what belongs to another, who will give you what is your own?" Got it? "No slave can serve two masters. For a slave will either hate the one and love the other, or be devoted to the one and despise the other." Got it? And finally this, you cannot serve God and wealth. Got it? Everybody got that? Somehow Jesus' disciples were supposed to get all that, to take it in and make sense of it, just as we are today. But that's impossible. I am so glad that Jesus is not here to say to me, as he said to his disciples on another occasion, "Have you understood all this?" Because I would have to say truthfully, "No, Lord, I've understood very little of it, almost nothing. You're talking about money, but none of this really makes sense." But here's the thing. When it comes to money, when it comes to material possessions in general, Jesus is the most detached person in the world. He says, "Why do you worry about your body? What you will eat? Or what you will put on? Your heavenly Father knows what you need. He'll give it to you." And in another place, "Foxes have holes, birds have nests, but the Son of Man has no place to lay his head." And you know what? The Son of Man is okay with that. He doesn't care about money. He seems almost amused by the way people grab it and hoard it, like children playing a game of Monopoly. And so he points out the behavior of this dishonest steward who bends the rule in his favor to make a few friends by the end of the game. "You see there," Jesus says, "that's the way you do it. Not that you cheat your master, but that you remember it's just a game." And here's what leads me toward that understanding. Jesus says, "If you have not been faithful with dishonest wealth, who will entrust to you the true riches?" Did you hear that? The true riches. Making it clear that from his point of view, those other riches are false. This green stuff with the numbers on it, in his perspective, it's just monopoly money. The world that claws and scratches to get it, those are children playing a game. But real life in the real world, that's something else altogether. Fine, you say. Tell that to my husband who just lost his job. Tell him that all that work that he did was just a game, and that the paycheck he brought home every week was monopoly money. Tell him that. It does seem a bit insensitive, doesn't it? Especially in times like these. Whatever else you may say about this dishonest manager, he had just lost his job, and he was doing everything he could to survive. Doesn't Jesus know what that's like? I do. Still remember the day I lost my job back in 1984. I had been married for just over a year. I was working as a commercial artist at a small studio in Kentucky. Someone had persuaded me that my boss wasn't paying me enough, and I started thinking about going into business for myself.